Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to another YSA online lesson. And really excited today to have Ryanna from the New School Kitchen join us today. Now, this was exciting an exciting build-up, right? Because we had an online vote. So we had a vote with the students and on Facebook, so all the parents and things, and they were, wrestling it out to see which recipe recipes that we were going to cook today. And in the end, it was banana pancakes and breakfast tacos. Now, one has only 3 recipes, which is cool. And the other one's looks a little bit more complex in terms of the amount of ingredients, but both look absolutely delicious. I couldn't make a decision. That's why I put it out there for a vote. So, and if you're watching this for the first time, please check out all the online content that we have available for you. And that's at youngscientistacademy.org/programs. And so Ryanna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here, yes. Rob, and all of the students. I'm honored to be a guest, and I love to cook and teach. So get ready to not just learn, but to interact with me, because I want to know more about you while I talk a little bit more about food.
Great, awesome. So, Ryanna, this is amazing what you're doing. First of all, your website is beautiful, and in fact, I'm going to bring it up so everyone can see this. And you should spend some time looking at this, everyone. But here it is. It's the newschoolkitchen.com. I just love it. Look at it. It's so enticing.
Thank you. Lots of recipes on there. If you hit that recipe tab, you can scroll down and you can choose just to look at the sweet treats or just at the smoothies. But I produce and test and send out a new recipe every single week. And what you're going to get today are 2 of my brand new breakfast recipes, because I'm kind of on a breakfast kick right now, and I'm wanting to expand beyond just cereal and scrambled eggs. So hopefully today we'll expand everybody's horizons with breakfast, arguably, and we can argue it, the most important meal of the day.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So this is you here. Tell us a little bit about your background. So you have yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So I am a Duke certified integrative health coach. That's just a big long word for saying that I coach people to change their behaviors with their eat. Just a dietitian, and the option is that I don't just share the information and get on their feet and actually do the things so that they can make the changes and eat some healthier food. They don't have to change everything. Some people get very nervous when they start taking some steps towards clean eating. And get up at the stove like we're going to do today, so that they can actually eat the foods that might help them feel better, think better, talk better, school better, all of it.
All right, that's great. All right, so and as this is going to be a very fluid discussion, so if anyone's got any questions, they can put it in the chat, and then I can call on you or I can ask on your behalf. But so which recipe are we going to kick off today? I know that we have some other budding young scientists and budding young scientist chefs that are going to be cooking along with us. So what I'll probably do is, flip back and forth here with things, and we can have a conversation in the kitchen, right? Because that's what
that sounds fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to start with the banana pancakes. So whoever is making banana pancakes, you want to make sure to get your oats, your milk, and your bananas ready along with your blender, so that when I'm cooking, you can cook along with me. But I was hoping first, Rob, to ask if the students think that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? I'm totally open to hearing yes or no. Anybody have an opinion? Is breakfast important? Do you even eat breakfast? And maybe even what you eat for breakfast. I wanna get to know you a little bit before I dive into those pancakes. Come over here too.
That sounds great. So I know that Cynthia says it sure is. It's either going to be Cynthia or David. Angie says yes, but usually I don't eat breakfast when doing schoolwork. Interesting. Joe, do you want to unmute your microphone and give your response?
Yes, it is the most important meal of the day.
Why do you say that?
Because it gives you the fuel for your day. It starts off your day.
Great answer. Fuel is such a good word for a way to look at nutrient dense food. So what I'm going to argue is breakfast is the most important meal of the day if you listen to your body for what time to eat it. Some people think, okay, breakfast is the most important meal. I've got to hop out of bed and just get the breakfast in. Some people need a little bit of time before they can digest the breakfast, and that's okay. We're all different in that way. I think breakfast is the most important meal if it's real food, if it's nutrient dense. Does anybody know what I mean? Give me an answer when I say real food. What does that mean to you? What does it look like to eat real food as opposed to not real food? I'm curious.
Lucy, do you want to have a go at that? Because I see your hand is raised anyway. Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My dad always says that if I found out, and my dad told me, that if I eat just carbs in the morning, then I'm not going to have an amazing day, because carbs are just like sugar. But if I eat some kind of protein like meat or eggs, then I'll have a much better day.
I love this so much. What a great answer. And yes, there are 3 macronutrients, and we've all heard these terms, but they're important to get all 3 of them on a plate: protein, carbs, and good fats. And I can talk a little bit about those as we go, but Lucy, what a great answer. You've noticed and tuned into your own body and seen when I just eat the carbs, especially if they're carbs that came out of a box, like cereal, it burns up really fast in the body. It might make you sluggish when the energy and the fuel wears off. And if there was some protein in there, like an egg or a clean piece of bacon, you would have burned that fuel longer and slower. So I love your answer. And it's right in line with what I teach people. So nice work. Real food, this is how I define it, guys. There's 3 parts to this. So if you want to type them and send them back to me, that will let me know that you're listening to this. There's single ingredients. So single ingredient, this is a tomato. It's sourced from nature. This tomato came off of a vine and it grew outside or in a greenhouse. And you make it yourself at home. You prepare it yourself at home. So I either got this out of the garden or I got it from the grocery store, and now I'm gonna chop it up and we will use it in our breakfast taco, or I could make a quick salsa out of it. So it's a single ingredient, it's sourced from nature, and I'm gonna prepare it at home. That's how I define real food. Do those 3 things make sense to you? Type in a yes, if so. And then we're gonna make banana pancakes.
We've got yeses across the board. I hope everyone's healthy and safe. Let me just throw that in there. And then initially so my boys were getting the school lunches like that were provided by the county. I was shocked, absolutely shocked at how it got to the point where they don't want it anymore.
Good.
We've stopped, right? And you know, we like to cook in general. I think it was like a novelty thing, but any thoughts on the nutritional standards of the public school lunches?
Yeah, it's sad, Rob, but it's not just public schools. It's the term institutional food. So public schools, hospitals, prisons, any big establishments where they're feeding a lot of people, what has happened is that the quality of that food has gone down and down over the decades, and it's extremely processed now. So processed just meaning that it's come out of a factory, it's had to have ingredients added to it or taken away from it so that it can be very, very quickly prepared and stay fresh for months and months and months if need be. And what happens when we eat too much of that institutionalized or processed food is that our bodies don't recognize that fuel. That's like if we went to fill up our cars, or we put in our remote control things bad batteries, you know, batteries that were poor quality. The electronic device or the car is just going to start breaking down and not functioning properly. And that's why your boys recognize that they didn't want that fuel in their body from the school lunch, and why when we take these single ingredients that we can buy at the grocery store, this only says oats on the back of it. That's a single ingredient. It was sourced from nature. Oats grow outside, and I'm preparing it myself at home. When we take these real foods, this is the dense fuel that has our bodies running like well-oiled machines. And your kids recognize that. How wonderful. It is sad that our schools and our hospitals are serving this food, but I will tell you, I am working with a hospital in Durham, and there are schools that are making changes, and I think people are really starting to wake up to that quality of food and make the shifts so that children and people who are sick can have what they need to be well and to thrive.
Yes, we're going to have a lot to talk about here. Yes, because, you know, what's also sad is that for many kids, not just in the Cape Fear region, but throughout the US, you know, a school meal is the only meal that they're going to get in a day. And I get it. Yep. I do get that, and it's a challenge. But how do we break down those barriers is a challenge. Anyway, we've got lots of time to talk about this issue. Yeah, I do strongly believe.
Yes, and I would love. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I do believe that science is a great way to answering this issue in the community, like nutrition. And yes.
Great. Yes, and growing food. The more we can learn to grow our own food, there are school gardens that are cropping up. Hospitals are even planting gardens on rooftops. And the more we can learn to even just grow a tomato or grow some fresh basil, or here I've got lettuce that I pulled out of my garden this morning that we'll put on the breakfast taco. This is so dense in nutrients, even more than the lettuce that I could have bought at the grocery store this week. And that's the exciting stuff, knowing that, you know, when my 3-year-old, or Miles, my 11-year-old who's on here, Miles loves his lettuce. We call it bunny food in this house. Knowing that bite that I just took is just bursting with the kind of nutrients that gets my body and all of my cells so happy. Yeah, this is science and it's nature coming together. So I'm right there with you, Rob.
Yeah. Abby has her hand raised. So does Miles, actually, for that matter. Abby, do you want to go first, and then Miles can kick in?
You don't do processed. My mom has Crohn's disease, so we don't do processed foods. But my question was, what about kids with allergies?
Yeah, so allergies are really prevalent. I'm sure you guys know, and I'm going to guess we have a couple of people in this group with sensitivities or allergies. There's 2 different terms to describe that. A sensitivity is a reaction to a food that could be uncomfortable, like sneezing or aching or itching. And then an allergy, a true anaphylactic allergy, if anybody has one of those, you'll need an EpiPen. And that is a life-threatening response to a food. And we're seeing allergies and sensitivities and things like Crohn's and colitis. I have celiac disease, so I understand where your mom is coming from. Autoimmune diseases like that, along with allergies, are increasing. And one of the theories is that all of the processed food we've been eating for the last 20, 30, 40 years is causing our bodies to say no to simple foods like peanuts or oranges or fish, because the immune system is so lit up. It's highly overreactive. So yeah, great question. And the hope is, and what I've seen in my own body, and what I'm going to guess your mom has seen too, if she said no more processed food, is that when we take that food out and add the nutrient dense real food in, the body's inflammatory response and the immune system begins to calm down, and there's healing that happens. It's really quite miraculous, and it's science too, of course.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for answering my question too.
Thank you for having such great questions.
Miles, do you want to ask your question very quickly, and then we can jump into the banana pancakes. And we're going to have a conversation as we go through this, believe me. Lots of questions.
Okay.
Right.
Mom, tell them about what celiac is, what you have.
Sure, just so you understand, celiac disease is when gluten, which is protein that's found in wheat, barley, rye, and spelt, but wheat is the most common one in our culture. That protein in there, when it goes in my body, even in a minuscule amount, my immune system launches attack against my intestines. So I have to be really careful. Eating out isn't as important in our family as being in control of our own food. And celiac has been a blessing in disguise for me because it's what opened my eyes to what real food is and why I should be eating it. So thank you, Miles, for helping me expand on that. And I hope none of you ever have celiac disease. It's not fun. Okay, let's do banana pancakes, guys. So right at the start, this is the easiest recipe. You can use fresh bananas, or you can, a smoothie is so much better with a frozen banana. If you guys do smoothies, it's creamy and silky, almost like makes it like a milkshake. So when you freeze a banana, they get kind of brown and sad, but don't worry, this will not taste brown and sad. This 2 frozen or fresh bananas right in the bottom of your blender. If you're following along, we'll bring it out here. Yep. I'm using a Vitamix. That's a high-speed blender, but a regular blender should work fine. And then you're going to put a cup of rolled oats, not steel-cut oats and not instant oats, although I think instant would work. Rolled is also called old-fashioned oats. And this is just plain. This is not oatmeal packets with sugar in it, just plain old oats, but it'll be sweet, I promise. And then milk. I'm using hemp milk. That's homemade from hemp seeds. I made it last night, but you can use cow's milk or almond milk or soy milk, whatever your family uses as milk. About a half a cup. Okay, now blending it up is how we make the batter. This is different from other pancake batters because we're actually not using baking soda or baking powder. I could experiment and put a little in one day, but the beauty of this recipe is that it just whips up. Where is my blender cup? Just whips up without any of that. So taking a peek.
Is that a ninja? We have a ninja in our kitchen.
A ninja would do great with this. You may have to double the recipe. Sometimes the ninja pitcher is pretty big and it might not catch with what I've got, but I promise you'll want to eat double of these pancakes once you taste them. So that's it, your 3 ingredients, guys: bananas, milk, and oats. Now, if you want to zhuzh them up, like I say, or just turn up the volume on them a little bit more, just like any good baking recipe, some yummy vanilla extract is going to bring some more flavor. I'm going to eyeball about half a teaspoon in this batch. And, you know, you wouldn't bake cookies without a pinch of salt. Have you ever come across a baking recipe that didn't have a pinch of salt in it? I feel the same way about pancakes, puddings, even smoothies. I put a pinch of salt in, guys. Sea salt is going to give you lots of trace minerals, which our body needs. That's like the spark plugs that make the car go. We need minerals. So real food is abundant in it. And that's it. A little vanilla. You could put cinnamon in this too. Miles likes them with cinnamon, but we're just going to go with them pretty plain today. And we've got pancake batter. Okay.
So do you know the other thing
put the burner on.
Do you know the other thing that sea salt has? Does anyone know? That's essential to our bodies. And plants make it. Does anyone? You can put it in the chat and then we can think about that. I'll reveal the answer.
I love that. Great. Okay, so I'm heating up a skillet. You're definitely going to need butter or coconut oil, or if you have a cooking spray that's only has one ingredient in it and no any chemicals or propellants in it, that's the danger with some of those sprays. I'm just going to use good old-fashioned organic butter. When I teach people about dairy, and dairy we can classify as anything that came from a cow or a goat, so milk, butter, and cheese, one of the first things that I ask my clients to do is to make the switch to organic dairy. Now, organic is a word we've all heard probably. It's a big buzzword. It just means that the food was grown or processed with a stricter set of standards so that hormones and pesticides and chemicals are eliminated from that growing process. When we're talking about dairy from a cow or a goat, unfortunately, the dairy industry in this country does not have very high standards. So if you're drinking conventional dairy, that's dairy that doesn't have that organic label, there are some compounds and some hormones that are very concerning, especially for growing kids. RGBH or RBGH, that's a bovine growth hormone that they might be giving those cows to help it produce more milk, but we find that it can be harmful, especially in a growing body. So if your family is open to it, and if you don't already, you may want to consider getting organic milk and butter and cheese for your health.
So,
okay, look at that. So
check here on Lucy before you fall out. She actually has a question, I think. So go ahead, Lucy.
Can I undo my video so I can ask this question?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so do I use this pan or
let's talk about your pan. Hold it up again.
This pan or this pan?
So use the one that looks like, does either one of them have a coating? No, they're both stainless steel, it looks like. Use the one that's more shallow.
Okay.
The one that's more shallow. So when a pan has very high sides like that, it will be hard to flip the pancakes with a spatula. And Lucy, you're going to have to really use a lot of butter, because with a stainless steel pan, which is the kind of pan both that you held up are stainless, it does not have a non-stick coating, which is good because it doesn't have chemicals, but that means it might be a little stickier to work with. My favorite kind of pan, you guys, is a cast iron skillet.
I have one of those. I'll use that. I have one of those.
Great. Yes, Lucy, get your cast iron skillet and get it good and greased up with some butter, and I think your pancakes will do just fine in it. Now, I'm using a non-stick skillet here. I'm in my parents' kitchen, and this wouldn't be my first choice, but this is what we have for today. And I'm going to use a plastic spatula so that I don't scratch that skillet coating. You don't want to scratch that Teflon because it could release some chemicals. And then here's the best part about these pancakes, guys. We're only dirtying this blender. We'll do a test pancake. I like to do one test or one to start.
Hey, Ryanna.
Yes, Cyrus, hello.
Yeah, Teflon's actually the worst chemical out there.
Yes, I'm so glad that you reminded me of that. I know you're really very, he knows a lot about it as well, and you guys have been learning. And yes, my father, that he can't have his nonstick skillet. So for today's purposes, this is one of those high priority things in the kitchen to get. Thank you. Okay, so temperature, medium, better to go a little bit lower than higher. You want to make sure the middle of the pancake cooks, and you always want to watch for the bubbles, guys. This is a great sign. When your pancake starts making air bubbles, that means it's cooking through and getting nice and crispy and brown on the other side. Who loves pancakes? I don't know too many people who don't like pancakes, but give me a pancakes. Yes to pancakes. If you like a hot, it's like a treat in the morning. This is a lot of carbohydrates, like Lucy said, but there's a lot of fiber in this pancake from those oats And fiber is one of the things that helps that carb burn slower and stick to the ribs a little bit more. I would love to serve this pancake. Miles took off with the pancake. It could be some clean breakfast sausages. But yes, pancakes and sausages are a favorite around here for Sunday breakfast.
So it's breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure if others are having the same experience, but I'll keep an eye on that. So,
sorry about that.
Oh no, that's quite okay. Let me see. I had a couple of points. So the answer to the sea salt question is iodine or iodine. In fact, more and more Americans, well, not just Americans, people around the world were eating less plants, right? But we need iodine in our body for regulating hormones and metabolism. It's in our thyroid, right?
Yeah.
But if you're eating less plant material, right, vegetables, fruits, and things like that, you're not getting your iodine. So you're going to be iodine deficient. But there is also other trace elements in there as well, right? There's potassium, there's iron. So well done, Abby, on that one. With the iron skillet pan, any tips on maintaining that? Because there is actually a chemistry behind the do's and don'ts of an iron skillet pan, right?
Yes, great question. And then there is some work to maintaining it. At first, it can be a little intimidating. So you're actually absorbing iron into your food when you cook on cast iron, which is just incredible. It's heavy, it is iron. It provides a natural nonstick coating, and it retains heat beautifully. So sometimes even 5 minutes before I'm done cooking, I can turn the flame off, and this pan will stay so hot, it will keep cooking. Caring for it, you don't soak it in the sink. You don't put it in the dishwasher. Iron and water creates rust. There's a fun science experiment for you all, or not so fun if it's your favorite cooking pan and somebody who doesn't know how to treat it puts it in the sink. You scrape it clean. Sometimes I will put a little water if I've cooked some fish or some meat and I can't get it off, and I'll scrub it. But you always wipe it dry to make sure none of that water stays on there to rust it. And then you can coat it with a little bit of oil so it's ready. And we just leave it right on our stovetop, so it's ready to cook with.
Right, so it rusts because of oxidizing, right? The iron will react with the oxygen in the water to form iron oxide, which is rust. And then the oil effect there, it's actually it's the same thing as an oil spill in the ocean, right? It'll stop an interaction between the iron and it being exposed to the air. Right, so it protects it from that oxidization process. Yes.
I just learned something. Yes, oxidation. That's exactly it.
Cooking is just chemistry, right? Chemistry and physics.
It's amazing. So can you see the color? And Abby, I'm wondering how your pancakes are coming along, if you need any help with them. But you should be seeing a golden brown color starting on your banana pancakes. You want the middle to cook through. There's no eggs in here, but they can stay a little goopy in the middle if you don't give them just 3 or 4 minutes on each side to really cook through.
So what I might do here is quickly go across to Lucy and see how things are going.
Oh, Lucy, right.
And I'll just make sure that Lucy is there. How's it going, Lucy?
Good. I don't know what color it is underneath yet. Pretty much, it's been on there for a couple of minutes on one side.
Do you see any bubbles, Lucy?
Yes, I've seen some bubbles.
Good. That's a great sign.
You wanna put on your video so that we can all see?
Sure. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I have a computer, so it's harder.
Well, don't hurt yourself.
I'm not. So I think it's going.
Good job. Look at that. It looks great. And I'm almost done with the banana pancakes here, and I'll want to move on to tacos soon, but I want to make sure nobody has any questions. I'll put them on a plate here and maybe put a little maple syrup on them. Can you see yourself making these banana pancakes? Those of you that aren't making them right now, do you think you can see yourself without too much help putting the bananas, the oats, and the milk in the blender and then bringing it over to the stove, getting the stove on medium low, making sure that that butter or that coconut oil is on there, and then cooking them until they're a lovely golden brown? What do you think?
Yeah, we've got big thumbs up here. Yeah, they look absolutely delicious.
Yay.
Yes. So before you said actually frozen bananas are better. I feel that there is a technique we use in marine science to look at like the pigments that's inside of little microscopic cells. And it's called chlorophyll, right? All plants have it to photosynthesize and create energy, harvest the sun's energy. But a plant cell wall it's made of waxy lignin. So it's very, very hard to get that content out of the cell to measure the concentration of it. So a technique that's used is called freeze fracturing. So when you put it in a really cold temperature, the cells will break apart, right? So I wonder with the bananas if that's the same thing.
That is awesome. And I have no idea, but yeah, we keep, this allows us by freezing them to always have bananas on hand for this recipe and for smoothies. And of course, with maybe shortage of grocery runs happening right now due to the state of the world, I would encourage everyone to get a couple of bananas in the freezer so you have them available for you, because a box of almond milk is shelf stable and the oats are shelf stable. So you could eat this recipe without having to go to the store to buy anything fresh. And yes, maybe frozen bananas have done something different because of the freezer, and that's what's making it tastier and sweeter.
I also remember when we were in Bermuda, I was out there for a couple of years. You know, bananas are growing everywhere. And so we had our own banana tree in our backyard. And they were delicious. They didn't make it into the freezer.
Oh, that's awesome. So we've got our finished bananas. I could put just a little smear of, they were cooked in quite a bit of butter, but remember I said in the beginning, if there's too many carbohydrates, they're balanced over some fat for you. And I will tell you, some people don't even want maple syrup on these pancakes because the banana is just so sweet, especially if you've used it when it's ripe and has some black spots on it. But can put a little drizzle of maple syrup on these, and then you just cut through. I'll let you see the tender. Oh, that one's a little goopy. Said you want it to really cook on that skillet. This one let's cook through. Mmm. Ooh, hot and delicious.
That looks really good. And do you have a preference for maple syrup?
Yes, great real food question. So
Grade A.
you want to always turn the label over, you guys. And the most important thing to look, and ideally you only see one ingredient, and this one says 100% pure maple syrup. That's it. You don't need anything else added to maple syrup. That Aunt Jemima and the log cabin that are very popular in the grocery store, they are not maple syrup. It is a syrup that's made in a factory, and it's not real food like we talked about, not real fuel. Pure maple syrup is going to taste a little more maple-like, so it might take getting used to if you're used to the Aunt Jemima or the log cabin, but this is what's going to be mineral-rich. Speaking of minerals, loads of them in maple syrup, mineral-rich and better sweetener and fuel for your body than fake sugar or white sugar, perhaps, as well.
That's excellent. And I actually have a preference for maple syrup. I like the Quebec maple syrup. I'm sorry for anyone if they're from New Hampshire or Vermont, but they get these tins. I've got a tin of it down in the fridge, right? I'll go and get it in a minute, but I just love it. That's really neat. Lucy, we might quickly
Perfect.
touch base with you and see how your pancakes turned out. So I'll unmute you.
Okay. Mine look like tiny bits of char. But
Hang on, I'm sure they look good. Do you want to?
pretty sure I didn't add enough oil, but they aren't happy.
Well, you know what? They're still going to taste good, right? You want to try them?
Yeah. No, I already nibbled off of one of them. That's why it looks torn off. So it's good. It just burns my tongue.
Yeah. Well, good. Good job.
Dr. Rob.
Lucy, it's a good first effort.
Dr. Rob.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Abby.
So
Look at
great
this.
work, especially
Maple
cooking
syrup.
along with me on a first time in front of a camera. I would say, based on looking at your pancakes,
Oh, I'm sorry, it broke up there. So I think we missed what you just said. I'm sorry, Ryanna. It broke up.
me. Are you waiting for me?
Not yet.
Oh, that's fine. Lucy, who's making the pancakes, I would say may have been a little too hot, and cast iron skillets can get very hot, so you may want to go with a low heat, but really nice work. Tell me, are we ready to move on to breakfast tacos?
Yeah. So what we might do here is like take a 10-minute break, and then everyone can stretch their legs, wash their hands, and do all that stuff, and get a refill of coffee. And then we can come back and start the breakfast tacos in a minute. Does that sound good? Good. All right. Well, I'll stop the lesson here. We'll take a break, and we will be back in a minute.